You ever wish that you could draw your comic faster while maintaining a certain level of quality and also not break your back or burn out in the process? Some people think that skipping the thumbnail part of the process and going straight to the inks as quickly as possible is the answer. The problem is, they're wrong. Not only will that not make you faster, it will actually slow you down and stress you out. And in this video, I'll explain why slowing down speeds you up, why drawing less will help you make better comics, and things you can do today to improve your comic, whether it's your first or whether you're halfway through your 10th webcomic series. I also have a caveat somewhere in this video about drawing in general that will help you if you think that you're not good enough. To start though, I want to prove how this system works with two examples. It should be one example and I'll show you why it's two shortly. Spoiler alert, I'm a dumbass. Example 1. The reason I came up with this system is because during university my Cintiq broke right at the start of a comic project. And that meant that I couldn't draw for 2 weeks while I waited to get it replaced, and it meant that a quarter of my total time to complete the comic was now gone. So I was forced to complete the comic faster than I originally intended, and I was able to do that on time without sacrificing too much quality by thinking more about how the story would look. And because I thought first and drew second, as opposed to just drawing and hoping for the best, then by the time that my Cintiq was fixed, the actual physical act of drawing the comic was so much smoother and faster. And that was because I knew exactly what I was going to draw and why I was drawing it in a certain way. Don't get me wrong, I still made a lot of mistakes with that comic, but it ended up being the best one that I'd made to date. But because I'm an idiot, I didn't really learn from that experience, and so by the time I got to my next comic project, example 2, I became obsessed with speed. The concept of time, not the drug. I wanted to produce a comic as quickly as I could so I could release it on Webtoon. And because speed was the only thing I cared about, I didn't really do any thumbnails and I didn't really think about the story because all I wanted to do was get to the inks as quickly as possible so I could fire out episode after episode because of the schedule that I'd made for myself. And as a result of that, I made a really bad comic. So bad that I ended up killing it and starting all over again. And I never want to repeat that experience again, so I went back to what worked with the previous comic project, I tweaked it, improved it, and slowed down. Here are two runners. The first runner thinks that speed and power is the key to winning. We'll call him Jeremy Clarkson. The second runner thinks that taking things slowly and considerately is the key to winning. We'll call him James May. The first runner bursts out the gate and he is out of sight almost immediately. He eats up the track and is way ahead. But then he twists his ankle and he has to spend 2 weeks recovering. In the meantime, during all of that time, the second runner hasn't even started the race and has instead spent that time doing stretches and making sure they know where the finish line is. The second runner will always win in this scenario. If you spend the time at the start of your comic page thinking about what the panels are going to contain and what the overall page is going to look like, and you do your metaphorical and literal stretches, the entire process is going to be so much smoother. You're not going to have to backtrack and redraw or recover from any physical or mental strains or stresses that you put yourself under. Because if you don't spend the time at the start, then you'll find out halfway through your race that you're left with two choices. Option 1 is to redraw some, if not all of the panels that you've been drawing for the last few months, and option 2, you're stuck with a comic that could have been better. Okay, so maybe you're not quite convinced with my running metaphor, and I get it. And you may still feel that getting to the inking stage as quickly as possible is the best way to produce more pages more quickly. Well, here's how you can produce more pages by not drawing at all. Do you know what thumbnailing is? If you said that it's rough drawings done quickly, then you'd be correct, but that's not the full answer. It's like saying that a pizza is some melted cheese and tomato. Well, where's the base, the peppers, the onions? God, I'm hungry. The main benefit of thumbnailing has nothing to do with the act of drawing. Thumbnailing is about thinking. So yes, draw your thumbnails quickly and plot out your page, but now that you've done that, you need to start asking yourself some questions, like these. How clear are your sequences? Do they help tell the story or are they just pictures? What are the characters feeling? At what point in their journey are they? Do they feel the weight of the world on their shoulders or is this their moment of triumph? What's their personality? Are they timid or bold? What shapes can you use to help exaggerate their body language and character design? Are they in a position of dominance on the page or are they getting lost in the background? Are the speech bubbles getting in the way or are they helping to guide the story? And honestly, I could have put twice as many questions in there, but I'm probably pushing my luck with those. I call this system the 3-2-1 system because I believe that you should spend 3 times as much time on your thumbnailing as you do on your inks, and twice as much time on your pencils as you do on your inks. The reason being is that the way that you think about drawing and creating your comic changes depending on what part of the process you're in. While thumbnailing, you should be thinking about the questions posted in this video. You're thinking about the storytelling. While you're penciling, you're fixing the anatomy and making sure that the perspective is okay. And when you're inking, it's more mechanical, where you're thinking about line weights, line quality, and the fluidity of line. If you Jeremy Clarkson your comic and race straight towards the inks, then you're not only risking damaging your story, but your inks are naturally going to look more tense and awkward because you didn't plan out your panels properly or fix any glaring mistakes. So you're kind of thinking about 3 things all at once. And if you don't have the experience to lean on, then you're just going to freeze. And now it's time for the caveat. Comics and comic art has nothing to do with good drawings. In fact, I'll go a step further and say that good drawings don't matter. By good drawings, I mean like conventional good drawings like these. They don't matter, and it doesn't matter whether you can draw like that or not. The thing that matters the most with comics is clarity. That is the goal. Are the drawings that you're making telling the story that you or the writer are trying to tell? If the answer is yes, then that is good comic art, regardless of the style, regardless of how good you think you are. You will get better at drawing over time if you study and practice the fundamentals, but you don't have to be a master to create comics now. You're nowhere near as bad at drawing as you think you are. And that kind of negative thinking is one of the quickest ways to burn out, which is kind of what this channel is here for. It helps me to make these videos because it stops me from burning out quite as often as I probably would if I didn't make them at all. And I hope the videos help you in some way as well, because sometimes you just need a simple reminder just not to be so hard on yourself. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're still in the early stages of your comic, then ask yourself the questions mentioned in this video and apply it to your comic. If you're halfway through a comic, do not start again if it can be helped. I know I'm a hypocrite. I started my comic again, but I was comfortable in effectively destroying 6 months worth of work. So instead of destroying your work, just slowly implement these ideas into your next few pages. You don't have to consider every single question because that might be a bit overwhelming, so just pick 1 or 2. Remember, this system is about figuring out the hard stuff while your drawings are loose, fixing any glaring mistakes, and then committing to those ideas. And if you do the hard stuff first, then the rest of the process becomes easy, and you'll create a better comic faster. If all of this is not enough for you and you're still struggling with your comic, then watch this video next because I go through 5 secrets that I wish I had known before creating the comic that I mentioned in this video.